One person every 30 seconds. What does this mean? It's how often a person commits suicide. According to Oxford University, more than 1 million people killed themselves last year worldwide. In Japan alone, around 30,000 people committed suicide in 2010. And these numbers are rising every year. The question is why, and what can we do about it? Despite the current global high rate of suicide, there are countries where few people take their lives. Places such as Argentina, Brazil, and Jordan all have low suicide rates. What then is the difference between cultures and the rate of suicide? One characteristic associated with suicide in the modern world is economics. Nowadays, countries with developing economies have the lowest suicide rate. It is reasonable to say that there is a will to live among people who foresee greater financial opportunities in the future. On the other hand, a higher suicide rate occurs in countries with established and developed economies. Suicide appears in very high numbers in the first world when its people experience recession conditions and high unemployment. The Japanese situation certainly fits this model. Japan is often referred to as a suicide nation. There is data to suggest that up to 90% of Japanese people who commit suicide suffer from some sort of mental illness. Additionally, males account for twice the number of suicides as females in Japan. With its high number of male workers and the gloomy financial situation, Japan possesses the economic conditions to push many to end their lives. Suicide is a serious problem in Japan. While the government has attempted to find solutions, the number of people taking their lives is still increasing. Recent direct actions by the government has included installing barriers and mood-calming blue lights in and around train stations to discourage speed jumpers. While this is certainly commendable, the government needs to examine the deeper reasons for suicide in this country. This includes both economic relief and trying to change people's attitude towards suicide and mental distress. Recently, one of my friends called me saying, "I want to die." He then asked me the easiest way to kill himself. Imagine if you are asked such a question by someone. How would you respond? In my case, I couldn't say anything right away because I was at loss for words. Little by little, however, we talked it over and he's okay now. Thinking back on it, I realized that he was looking for help from me. I wonder where else he could have turned. Despite having a long history of suicide, Japanese culture has always been somewhat tolerant towards it. Many still continue to view suicide as a somewhat morally responsible action. It is viewed within the context of tradition, with people ending their lives as being part of the way of the noble samurai. This attitude, especially in current-day Japan, is completely unacceptable. With the everyday pleasures of modern life, Japan must confront suicide. It cannot be viewed as any sort of option. In a responsible and mature society. And we must help those who reach such levels of despair. Thank you for listening.
Mr. National Senior High School.